Chapter 19. My incredulity of seeing a hostile Kryptonian, even if poorly cloned as she probably was, answered with the clone's dead, dull eyes taking on a bright red glow, and I reflexively pointed my palm at her. Cero! I yelled, and I could feel through the outputting spiritual energy her heat vision pushing through the pillar of my energy beam. But meanwhile, while I was to Sonido to the side to avoid the heat vision, she was engulfed in a large explosion as the Cero still smashed into her. The Kryptonian clone briefly staggered in the air with her white outfit in tatters around her body, as Kryptonians, for all their vaunted abilities, only had the supernatural density of their bodies to contend with magic. And my Cero was very much on the magical side of the spectrum. The clone then cocked her head as her programming obviously reasserted itself on the clone's psyche, as despite the wounds of my Cero smashing into her fully, she was showing little to no sign of the pain she should have been in. I must kill all opposition. Pain is fleeting. I barely heard her mumble, and then once again she drove towards me with her arm already cocked to punch me at the fast speed in which she was flying. You are a brainwashed tool. I snarled as I met her flying charge with my arrow-covered body, allowing me to match the abuse of the Kryptonians' blows as we became rabid animals tearing at one and slamming one another through the school buildings in a parody of a well-choreographed battle between martial artists. Our only goals were the complete destruction of one another, and even as our clothes were ripped apart and I had bad burns scored across my chest that didn't want to heal with my high-speed regeneration from her heat vision raking over my form during the battle, I had meanwhile shattered her collarbone when I volleyball spiked her into the ground with a Cero compressed in my closed hand that opened when it impacted her upper chest. Must complete the mission. She grunted as she still attempted to sit back up, while I couldn't help but feeling the carbonized charred flesh of my chest cracking as I slammed my knee into the sitting-up girl on the face, sending her flying through the air and creating an obnoxiously loud shrill noise as she collided with and bent over the rings of the American football goalposts. Then, seeing as she was groggily trying to get her head in order, I ripped off the charred chunks of my flesh that were impeding my high-speed regeneration with a whimper before my will honed over my time in hell took back over and I got back into the fight with the now recovered Kryptonian clone. Our battle only lasted a couple more minutes, in which we did a great deal more property damage, and then the next time I managed to slam her into the ground she was met with a dropkick to the face by Kid Flash going faster than the speed of sound, and while she was launched by the kick, Superboy came in with a brutal haymaker to her stomach that folded her over his fist and sent her flying back to me. Taking the opportunity, he offered I grabbed the flying Kryptonian clone as she began to recover in the air, and before she could react, I flipped us over in the air and with a Sonido, I shot us towards the grab as I hugged her legs with her head locked between my feet. The resulting collision from the clone's head smashing through into the ground with the spin I had added to our dive was devastating, as her super durable form was like a depth charge as the energy created in the collision sent the soil from the impact flying, with a large circular hole more than 10 meters deep was created. I couldn't help but pant as I allowed the clone's legs to fall in the dirt, and I just sat on her stomach in my psychically tired state as my high-speed regeneration took a lot of my body's energy, even if it didn't tax my spiritual energy. Lord, you, alright? Robin asked, very concerned, seeing the rivets of blood freely flowing down my chest and legs from where the very female clone's fingernails cut into me while we were grappling. Herc. I will heal, I said, spitting out a wad of blood from my torn-up cheeks, as being punched in the mouth and face was never fun. Then, having caught my breath, I staggered to my feet with Superboy helping me up as the rest of the team followed Miss Martian, who was making all the other assassins that attacked float in the air. I must be hallucinating. Is that Spider-Man? I asked incredulously, seeing a spider-themed dude bound up in what looked to be red webbing, and before my teammates could say anything the man valiantly fought through Miss Martian's bindings enough to remove the gag. I am Black Spider. I am not fucking Spider-Man, and I don't even know who that. Before the man could continue the tirade, Miss Martian gagged him again, and then I saw the other guy Miss Martian was floating alongside Cheshire and the aforementioned Black Spider. Captain Hook? I asked, and the man with a massive Hook prosthetic just rolled his eyes and didn't respond. Actually, his name is just Hook. Megan eagerly explained as I was keeping an eye on the form of the female Kryptonian clone. Robin, contact the League. We need special restraints for this one. I said as I sat down on the edge of the crater I made. Way ahead of you, Lord, Robin said as he briefly stepped away from the group after a small hologram popped up from his wrist computer that had Batman on the screen so the villains at the scene couldn't see or hear what he had to say to Batman. I just sighed as I adjusted my ruined outfit and tried to make it a bit more comfortable and keep out the breeze as Miss Fouquet, the scientist we were guarding, cautiously came out of a small car she was hiding in, as the school was even more dangerous to be within as superhumans were fighting one another. The fog is taken care of? I asked her and she nodded tiredly as she crouched down to sit on a padded mat that was on the field for cheerleaders to practice on that probably been thrown out during the battle that wrecked the school. Lord, do you think this one will survive? Superboy quietly asked me as he knelt beside me, and we both watched the visibly breathing form of the female Kryptonian clone. I couldn't help but groan as honestly with how hard she fought I wasn't sure for the moment if I wanted her to see another sunrise, but Superboy, who was already my friend, probably saw himself in her situation, especially with how they were both treated as a weapon. Maybe. I mean, her wounds aren't lethal, nor did I snap her neck when I slammed her into the ground. She is just unconscious for now, I said, and seeing Superboy sadly nod, I patted him on his shoulder as I consoled him. Look, the League literally has the best healthcare on the planet, and if anyone can help her heal up and even clear up her mind, it's the League, I said, knowing all too well that the League wouldn't let some psycho Kryptonian go around with the damage she could cause so if she were to survive the next week after being let out of wherever she came from. That's of course if her unstable body didn't just fail like matches did after he fought the League. Some 5 minutes later, as the police and news agencies came to see what all the chaos was about, the League met and stopped them from interfering as League heroes arrived one after the other, with Green Arrow escorting Shirley Fouquet and Batman slapping on a pair of comically thick cuffs on the clone after spraying something into her nose. Superboy, can I have of your time tomorrow? Superman asked unexpectedly as he floated in front of us above the crater that Batman was carrying the female clone out of. Call me Connor. Superboy snapped reflexively but then looked away contritely as I elbowed him, and then he sighed before speaking again to his father. Yeah, I got free time. Then the two of them left me alone as they moved away to make plans to meet tomorrow. Hey Lord, let's get going. Kid Flash called as Miss Martian's bioship unveiled itself. All right. On my way. I called out as I thankfully was able to walk now without too much time, as my high-speed regeneration had healed my wounds quite well at this point.